Aloha and good evening, everybody. Welcome to Let's Talk Story. This is our second one that we're doing. First one was last month with Hawaiian Electric. This month we were very lucky to have both HIEMA and Department of Emergency Management. Just to give you a quick explanation before I pass it off to them. Hawaii Emergency Management Agency, also known as HIEMA, is our statewide organization that prepares for, responds to, and helps us recover from the hazards that impact all of Hawaii. They create statewide emergency plans, coordinate major disaster responses, oversee our alert and warning systems, and support our counties with resources before, during, and after emergencies. Their mission is to ensure Hawaii is ready for anything from hurricanes, wildfires, flooding, tsunamis, and volcanic activity to man-made threats. Our second speaker will be the City and County of Honolulu's Department of Emergency Management, also known as DEM. Their focus is on Oahu. DEM coordinates county-wide disaster planning, public outreach, and emergency operations. They run the local emergency operations center, work closely with first responders and community partners, and help make sure our residents, businesses, and visitors receive accurate and timely information before and during emergencies. Their goal is to keep every neighborhood on Oahu, urban and rural, prepared and able to recover quickly. So without further ado, we'll start off first with HIEMA and turn the time over to you, Don. Thank you so much for being here.
All right, thank you, Representative Gideon. Thank you for inviting us, HIEMA. I just wanted to introduce some of my staff that are here. We have Malia. She's our community outreach lead. And then we have Kiele, who is our comms director. And then we have my wife and also colleague at work. She's our financial analyst for most of our disasters. And then we have Jordan, my special assistant, along with the administrator. So on behalf of the administrator of HIEMA, thank you for being here. It is a honor just talking about disaster preparedness, disaster response and recovery. So kind of what we want to do is kind of give you a kind of impactful kind of presentation to get a little bit more familiarized with what our new vision is for the future of our disaster response and recovery. So our Hawaii Emergency Management Agency is located in Diamond Head. It is a bunker that we have inside that's pretty secure. So, so a lot of our communications and so forth is about, being in a secure space where at least if there's something that happens, we'll be there, no matter what the incident is. So there's a lot of advantages of being in Diamond Head, of course. It's natural walls inside of there, as well as being one of the most beautiful places on the island of Oahu. Yeah. So our mission is to help Hawaii Ohana prepare for and respond to disasters and emergencies. So this is some of the pictures that we use with our partners, including DEM and our first responders, and then our federal partners like FEMA. So a lot of the things that we do are in part with our cooperation with all our partner agencies. So this is kind of a hierarchy. Of course, our current governor is the commander-in-chief, and we're in the Hawaii State Department of Defense. A lot of people don't know that. They think we're a standalone agency, but we're not. We're part of the Hawaii State Department of Defense. Our Director of Emergency Management is our Adjutant General, General Stephen Logan, and he's oversees several of the divisions, which include ourselves, the Army and Air National Guard, as well as the Office of Veteran Services and our Youth Challenge Program. So we do have a Deputy Adjutant General, and he takes care of most of the military, the other four branches. So, we can move on. So kind of our agency in itself, of course, like I said, the Director of Emergency Management is the Major General Logan. Then we have James Barros. Not quite sure why they didn't put his picture in there, but we got to change that slide to make sure that happens the next time. Myself, as an executive officer, I'm number 2 in command in that. Then we have our 5 branches: operations, logistics, resilience, finance and administration. Of course, like I said, our communication and external affairs, Kiele is here. And then we want to emphasize that our counties are our clients. We try to work with the counties as much as possible. And of course, we have Kauai County, we have Elton Ushio, Dr. Randall Collins, Molly's boss at the City County of Honolulu at DEM, Amos Lono Kailua Hewitt from the Maui County, and of course Talmadge Magno from the Big Island, Hawaii County. So those 4 administrators are what we support. So from our state side, we do our best to try to help them with whatever needs they have in a disaster. Our Emergency Operations Center, this is kind of what the hierarchy is for how we coordinate with the federal, state, and then of course our county partners and the municipalities. So it kind of shows that like more easily the State Emergency Operations Center. We're starting to refine this as well, working with other businesses here. And then we're also continue to refine that as we move along. But the federal side, we're not quite sure yet what it's going to be, but this is kind of what it is now. So currently, this is the structure of how we respond to disasters, and including any man-made type of disasters that may come from either terrorism or some kind of nuclear or any other warfare kind of operation. We do work with the National Guard, and our director, is also the one that becomes a dual status commander. Excuse me. Yeah, I don't know if we have that one. Okay. So this is kind of the process of what happens. Now, just keep in mind, this is kind of what the process is now, as the Trump administration is going to change a little bit of how this works. But currently, if there's an incident, normally this process goes all the way down from here. County activates, county capacity exceeded. Like if the city and county can't handle some of the issues because of either by personnel or equipment, the state comes in, gives their resources, which is normally the National Guard, right? Our resources are used. Once we exceed that capacity, we ask for the federal government, which is FEMA, that answers that call for us. And of course, the President of the United States is the one that declares a presidential declaration. Okay. So part of our process also, this is our 4 pillars. The administrator also always wants to emphasize preparedness is the biggest thing, and that's what we're here for. Being prepared, building the capacity and capability of your communities and the organizations that you folks support. The response, of course, is when the incident happens, and then our recovery, how we respond to that, all the damages that happen, and we recover from that. Then hopefully we learn from that, and we start to either harden structures or shelters, be better prepared. Even from all the way from your family to all the way up to, our state level, from a local and then into the state level. So mitigation is also important, and that's what we always ask, what we will be asking for in the future at the legislature. Okay, preparedness, some of the things that we do, yeah, I always say that do. Anyway, but emergency preparedness, I know it's hard here in Hawaii. Maybe not so much because I went to Kalani High School, so this side of the island a little bit more, well off. But you always can have that 2 weeks ready, right? And then we have a Costco here too, right? And then our alert system. This is part of the nationwide, also used by both our state and then also our local level in the municipalities. This is kind of the view of what happens a lot in Hilo. The water levels rise with the king tides, and also when there's extreme flooding. Yeah. Oh yeah, let's go to the next one. Wait. Sorry. Okay, so this is our response slide in it. It emphasizes all our counties and who our customers are and as well that we support. Some of these pictures came from the Lahaina wildfires, and all 4 counties, helped in this effort. A lot of the agencies from the different municipalities helped us, including fire, to support Maui, and also City and County, both all the responders came and helped, and of course the Big Island. they all came in support in a mutual aid kind of effort. So a lot of the things that we do to support and we ask from the legislature, a lot of these things are for these purposes, right? We don't know, like the last time I was still in the National Guard at the time, and Hurricane Iniki was our last biggest one. We haven't had any disasters of that magnitude for 35 years until this Lahaina wildfire. But so it wasn't a statewide issue. So this is our National Guard. This is some of the, we emphasize community help. And then also this is a picture of the community volunteers, including Mayor Bisson's wife from Maui. And then our National Guard continuing to help, help with the support for all the survivors. And this is recovery. So I'm the debris lead debris task force lead for Maui. So this is kind of what happened. We had to clear all this debris. So when we came to start our assessment, some of these vehicles were on Front Street. I don't know if you folks are familiar, but that's Front Street. All this is all Front Street. And then eventually we started rebuilding and fixing the lots so that the survivors could rebuild for their place. This is Lahaina Harbor. A lot of the boats were damaged and actually melted, some of them, in Lahaina Harbor. So you can kind of see the devastation, and I might be overly graphic in a sense, but I want to let you know that a lot of the stuff that we saw and while we were clearing out, it was pretty graphic. So keep in mind, when these kind of disasters happen, there are losses of life. So we lost 102 souls from that disaster. Some people forget that at 2.5 years later, but we just want to make sure we remember them. Mitigation, like I said, this is where we start to begin the hardening structures. We try to put in generators. We get requests from different entities, including the counties, that want to put generators so that the next time they'll have power. Because the biggest thing that for after disasters is everybody's always looking for power and water. So we want to make sure that the power pumps the water pumps. Gives power to the water pumps, because that's the biggest thing that happened in Lahaina. A lot of pumps went out and no electricity. So, and then that's Kauai. They're trying to harden the structure there so that the next hurricane that comes along, and of course even the first responders facilities are hardened because they're critical infrastructure, and part of that is to make sure that they're able to come out of the building without after a disaster and help and support everybody in the community. This is a quick one. This is our state hazard rankings. Previously it was COVID, but wildfire. So we do have an assessment annually for every 2 years rather for our state hazard mitigation plan, and the counties also have to do so. So it kind of gives us an idea of the kind of risks we have in the islands. So wildfires are number one. Like I said, it was COVID, and then climate change and sea level rise, as you see a lot of this happening, even on our coastal side here. And then hurricane, tsunami, which is always, these two are always, the prevalent fear or hazard that we have. And then earthquake and volcanic more on the Big Island. So this was our outlook for 2025 for the hurricane. Luckily, you saw some of the hurricanes that were heading here, but for our islands, we're very fortunate, like not having any hurricanes for over 35 years. And then, of course, you folks we had the tsunami scare in July. This is kind of like our timeline. So what happened, Kamchatka in Russia had the earthquake right up here. So we had really 5 hours before it approached. That's why you had short notice during that tsunami warning, because they were telling us that's the wave was going to hit in 5 hours. So that kind of gives you an idea of places around the Pacific Rim and this whole Pacific Rim of fire. We're always going to have that risk of a tsunami. So we do have a lot. Um, I know my colleagues that work at HIEMA, we get the notice every time, 6.3, Richter scale earthquake in Japan or Chile. But the really big ones are the ones that are like 8.5 or above. And that's the ones that we have to worry about. So the one in Kamchatka was about 8.8. So if it hits higher than that, definitely going to have a tsunami, a very large tsunami. And kind of gives you an idea. This is kind of an older slide because we don't know what's going to happen with the new FEMA 2.0. But this is what we used to have as our thresholds for our different disasters. So counties, their minimum in Kauai, if they had 300, like if there was a disaster, it had to be over 330,000. But statewide, it would be about 2.7 million. So that kind of gives you an idea now, but what they're saying is that it might be more. The state has to put in more and has to meet a higher threshold. These are our previous disasters. Like I said, Iniki was our last one, but these are the ones that have been between the last 10 years and 1 decade. So a lot of these are, you folks still may remember them, including the eruption for Kilauea and Mauna Loa, Hurricane Lane, and then of course our COVID. And then we continue to have all these severe flooding issues and disasters. So these were our presidentially declared major disasters. So these met the thresholds, but maybe next year if we have any kind of disasters, these same disasters that had that threshold that I just showed you may not qualify for the next round. Okay. So part of that vision for us to kind of cope with that next FEMA 2.0 is to work with our community colleges, FEMA, our county emergency management, and of course our biggest one is community-based organizations that the representative out here is trying to work with the community and get us more prepared in our different regional areas. And then our private partners, this is kind of new for us, even at HIEMA, is to work with the different industry leaders. Like we work with Matson now in our BEO, our business EOC. There's Young Brothers, Hawaiian Airlines, or now Alaska, and different industries, so that we make sure that everyone can help and support, and that we direct that aid to where it's needed. Then we have our nonprofits. Of course, you folks have heard of Hawaiian Council, formerly known as the Council of Native Hawaiian Advancement now. So CNHA is one of those nonprofits. Of course, OHA, Kamehameha Schools, they're all nonprofits. So they helped, especially in the Lahaina wildfires. So this whole, and if you have any questions, we have our community lead that might tell you, that will tell you about a lot of the community things that we are doing. But our overall program is also called HARP, which is short, Hawaii Hazard Awareness and Resilience Program, and in short, it's called HARP. And that is a community-based kind of what we're trying to do statewide, is to have communities have this network so that you folks can depend on your neighbors, stakeholders, community stakeholders, so that they'll be able to understand, hey, we have the training, we'll be the ones to take the helm until the government comes. And usually in these kind of large disasters, it may take a week or even 2 weeks before the government can give some aid. If a road is cut off, we got to make sure, DOT can clear the roads, and it takes a little while. So to get all those resources to come here. So part of the administrator's vision is to make sure that the communities are able to do so, including our elected officials, and make sure that they're aware of what's going on, and that this is some of the support that they can depend on, and your community can depend on. Some pictures from previous disasters. This is with the Kauai 2018. This is our workhorse for us, wildfires. You folks may have seen lately. And then pretty much, yeah, this is all of the 2018 wildfires. So my cousin is a Kauai fire captain, and he told me that I told him, "Oh, that's not buffalo." He said, "No, that's bison." But they actually have bison in Kauai, so they had to save a lot of the animal life as well there, including the support for the Honolulu for that particular disaster. And then this is our support, right? Every one of us is a support person within our community. This is some pictures. This is our housing fair at the Lahaina wildfires to support a lot of the housing registrations, and if they had any questions about how to get temporary housing until they could rebuild, and they're starting to do so. They no longer have the Corps, but this is our FEMA Corps that came in, our AmeriCorps that came in, that helped us with a lot of stuff. So this is one of the nonprofits that continue, or also part of the, it's kind of like quasi governmental business, like an NGO that helped us with all the support, getting our donations and our community to get back on their feet. This is some of the workers that came. A lot of them volunteered also to come in and help the Lahaina community rebuild. This picture we want to emphasize, of course, not including the governor, but this is our first all-female FEMA, what they call the IMAT, which is our it's a quick response type of team that comes in, and this is the ops, our logistics, our planner, and of course our federal coordinating officer. And they were instrumental in getting all our federal resources here to the islands, and will continue to do so. They're from our Region 9 out of Oakland, California. So lastly, like I said, thank you for inviting us, Representative. And if you have any questions, we do have, if you have any kind of questions, hopefully we have the expertise here to answer your questions. But thank you for inviting us, and hopefully that gives you kind of an idea of our agency. Mahalo.
Thank you, Don. If there are any questions, I've got a microphone so we can get it on the video. Any questions from the audience? Because I do have a question. Let's see. Could you explain how the state's alert and warning systems work, including the wireless emergency alerts and sirens? Because I know it differs from the HNL alert.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. For us, it comes from our state warning point. We do have procedures that we follow as far as warning. We do the monthly siren. You folks always hear about 11:45 every first of the month, or close to the first of the month. And part of that exercise is to make sure all the sirens work. As far as the wireless alerts go, they're more, I think we're starting to implement them soon. Yeah, so we're going to also do an exercise in conjunction with the siren, so that people get used to it as well. But we still have to work with the county administrators as well on that, because a lot of that, all this has to be coordinated, right, just to make sure that nobody panics. And that it is a kind of an exercise for us, but we need to make sure those systems are online when they're needed. So, that's pretty much.
That's the mobile phone alert.
Yeah. So it's the wireless alerts that come out.
Perfect. Those are the ones that push straight to your phone, and you hear the siren. Everybody gets it.
Right. So if you folks were a part of the tsunami warning, and if you were here, that we did give out that we were. So Molly has a great graphic. Yeah.
I'll go over them.
Perfect.
Yeah. So this she has their Honolulu alerts, and then what we go down the line here. So, but like I said, the counties, we work with the counties because a lot of them have to know beforehand. So especially, and then we alternate who sounds that siren, and then also, as in the future, the wireless alerts. Okay. Because I think this past one with the counties were the ones that sounded the sirens.
Okay, so you guys alternate.
Yeah, we alternate with all the different counties.
Perfect.
Yep.
And with on the topic of sirens, for a while we did have one that was inoperational. we're proud to say thank you, HIEMA, for fixing our siren. We have all sirens in our district are operational. So big mahalo to you guys.
Yes, thank you. Yeah. I mean, the former representative Ward, he really pushed us, and he didn't let us forget about those sirens for sure. But it happens a lot. You folks have to understand these things are from the 1930s or 1940s. A lot of these, and they were initially for civil defense, right? More like air-rated alerts. Sirens, or as well as if there was a tsunami coming. So
awesome. Well, if there's no other questions, Don, thank you so much for you and your team showing up tonight. Really appreciate it. I do want to point out, your team does have some great collateral. I love this natural hazard preparedness wheel. You can turn the wheel and it shows the different types of hazards: volcano, earthquake, hurricane, and in the little box it has an action plan for you. The other one that I really like is your "Are you 2 weeks ready?" And this can be found on your website as well.
yes,
And that's dod.hawaii.gov, correct? Pardon me?
Ready Hawaii.
Ready? I'll let you take it.
Ready.hawaii.gov.
Ready.hawaii.gov.
Or you can put Hawaii Emergency Management Agency, which is a little long, into Google, and it'll come up also.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
Next, we have Molly Pierce from the Department of Emergency Management, which oversees things on the city and county level.
Hello.
Welcome, Molly.
Hi. Thanks. I'm so sorry I was a little bit late, everybody. I put handouts on the table in the back. I went to multiple incorrect locations. Thanks, Google. But we're here now, and we are always able to respond to emergencies, even if they're of our own making. So Jillian is helping get my presentation up. I realized.
So, based on the collateral, which I know I've got in my bucket, the question was, what are some of the items that you have in your 2-week kit? I'm going to go down the list. First one is 1 gallon of water per person per day. Make sure you've got a lot of water. Food, non-perishable. Don't be packing musubis and manapua. That's not going to work. Get your canned food. First aid kit, medical equipment, medications. If you're on insulin or any other type of medications, make sure you've got that stocked. Make sure you've got a NOAA alert radio with batteries. Flashlight, can opener. You got to be able to get into those canned peaches or a can of Spam. Tools, warm clothes, because you never know what the weather's going to be like. Sturdy shoes. Slippers might cut it for a little bit, but you never know what you're going to be going through. So have some good shoes. Personal hygiene items. Nobody wants a stinky partner with them. So pack that toothbrush, pack that deodorant, and toilet paper. We all know toilet paper. Pet supplies. If you got a furry friend, or I don't know, some people keep chameleons. Make sure you've got the supplies that you need for that. Fire extinguisher, glasses, and eye care. I wear contacts. I should probably put a couple of extra contacts into my kit. I don't have those ready. Cash and identification. You never know when you're going to need that. Mask, sanitizer, proper PPE. Important documents. Your passport, your driver's license, health insurance cards. Make sure you have those ready to go. Comfort and entertainment. Keep some packs of cards. You never know when things happen, you're going to have a lot of downtime. And the last thing you want to do is be sitting around ruminating, just thinking about what's going on. But this collateral was great. Again, ready.hawaii.gov. You can find it on there.
So we are victims in Hawaii of our own good fortune in so many ways. We are so fortunate in terms of emergencies. It feels like we're not, right? Everything hits us. It feels like we're not. But if you think about places like Florida, Georgia, the Carolinas, you get a hurricane every year. The weak houses are gone by now. Here, we don't have that same level of kind of stressing the system and forcing that level of preparedness. And so it's really easy for us to sit here and think, the Mauna will protect us. That hurricane's never coming. It's not if, it is when. And those of us who've been around long enough, we've seen it, we know it. But as living memory fades, as we push past those moments where the kids in school know, it gets harder and harder for people to really understand the why, right? It gets harder to explain to people why they should do it. And so that's why we start having to draw comparisons to other places, and that makes it a lot harder. And that's why this kind of thing is so important. Because I can tell you, have 2 weeks, get your apps, do this and that. But it's not going to mean as much as your neighbors raising their hand and saying, I've been through it. Take it seriously because I know. That's more impactful. And that's really where we try to get with this. Emergency management, the city level, the state level, the federal level, everywhere. The goal is to get community together. All of us are trying to facilitate that. Don mentioned it. I'll talk about it. It's so that you all have the tools you need to do the doing, right? Emergency management is planning and coordination. And so I have a lot of these question slides. Some of them I'm just going to ask you, and some of them we're going to think about, like silent reading time. But this question, I think, is really important. So we talked about what emergency management is. It's the planning, it's the coordination, it's the making sure things happen in the manner because we've thought of it ahead of time, or we have a mechanism for it ahead of time. And Don gave you a hint earlier. I don't know if he knew it, but who are the emergency managers? Yes, we are. Everyone here is an emergency manager. People who work in it and people who don't. You manage something in your life, and you got to manage the emergency part of it too. The people who will protect you are you. We're going to try and help. But it's on you. It's on each and every one of us to be the first line of defense for ourselves, for our families, for our neighbors, and getting together, having that kako effort, doing it together. So we talked about this. Emergency management, we're kind of the conductors of the orchestra. When I talk to little kids and I say, what do you think I do? I like to tell them I don't do anything. I think about it. I plan for it. I facilitate it. I organize it. I get the right people in the room. But I don't fly a helicopter. You don't want me to. Don can probably drive a dump truck, but you don't want me to. This is the kind of thing where you need each and every type of person. And we're the ones who figure out which people go where. We move them around and we get the things moving. And that's what each and every one of you are doing for your households. As you're doing this preparedness, you're figuring out what you're going to need if the power goes out, how you're going to handle it, if you have the Band-Aids in the first aid kit, all of those little things. It's the same thing on a different scale. So why in Hawaii is preparedness so important? We talk about storms on the mainland, things on the continent. They only have to have 3 days. Why do we need 2 weeks? Yes. We are isolated. Yes, we are isolated. What else? Yes, we are dependent on imported goods. Have you seen my presentation before? My goodness. Okay, let's see. Third time. What's the third thing? I bet you know it. How does the stuff get here? Yes, the port. So our port, our airports, our coastal highways, our infrastructure is incredibly vulnerable just because of where it is and where we are and how it's built. And so for us, the chances of just being able to fly in everything you need, it's not very realistic. We're going to try like hell, but realistically, there's not that much stuff you can bring in. So we have to think about what we've got here and how to make that work. And so that's a really big part of this. And then we talked about tsunami, we talked about hurricane. In emergency planning, we don't, we say we don't have to plan for a tornado, which you really don't. Those 4 cows on Molokai, they had their own situation. But you think about what can impact you. So let's just holler out what we think, say top 4. Most likely and or most impactful hazards. Flood, earthquake, what else? Huge one. Pandemic, yeah. What else? Terrorism. 9/11, more terrorism. What else? Supply shortages. Yes, in the back. Hurricane from the back. Yes. Okay, on the natural disasters side, we had tsunami, we had hurricane. What else do we have, we think? Floods. Earthquake. Okay, these are some huge ones. Yes. So on Oahu, how concerned are we about the lava? Exactly. So this is where we're going. This is a huge, huge deal if you live in Puna. I lived in Puna. I had to have lava insurance. It was a whole thing that I was way over my head on. Thank goodness somebody else figured it out for me. But so you plan for what can impact you. On Oahu, generally speaking, natural hazards wise, in that kind of matrix of most likely and most impactful, you're seeing hurricane, tsunami, flash flood, wildfire as the things that are kind of, and that you can have an impact in your planning for. Some of these things are going to be massively impactful. A giant earthquake, it's unlikely on Oahu, but it really could, yes. Yeah, so these things can happen. You're right. And I'm not saying don't plan for everything. For the room and for the recording, an earthquake that was strong enough to knock out generators and there was no power for a few days up to a week. 5 days, yeah. So this is really key. We do have to think about all of those possibilities, but we want to start from those points of likelihood. So if you know you live in an area that floods every year, maybe plan for floods first. That's low-hanging fruit, right? You know realistically what's going to happen, plan for it. Then you think, okay, we have a hurricane season. Maybe plan for hurricane next. Once you got that one figured out, what's your, where you live? Are you in the tsunami evacuation zone? Are you out? If you're out of the zone, the only thing you really have to do to plan for a tsunami is let your friends and family know to come to your house if there is one. You're pretty golden in that situation. So it's thinking those things through, right? Of what'll impact you, what's most likely or most impactful, and orienting where you're going to plan around that. Okay, so the other thing that in that same vein is understanding the weather. What do we call Gaihagi? Lie hoggy. Is he lying? You're right. He's not lying. But what's happening a lot of the time is there's a ton of uncertainty in forecasting when you're a tiny speck in a giant ocean. But B, a lot of people don't know the difference of the different forecast products. So he says there's an advisory for something. Might happen, might not. The conditions are there, right? There's a watch. Okay, warning, high likelihood. But everyone just kind of hears flood. They don't hear what kind, So it's understanding all of that. So knowing where to get good information and then knowing how to understand it is really key in your planning. So we're going to go through this. A lot of it Don hit on, so we'll go quick. And then I have handouts, and I'm happy to speak to it as well. But yell out what you think the items are to do to prepare for disasters and protect your family. The buckets, big buckets of things. Make a plan. What else?
Practice your plan.
Practice your plan. How about stuff? You need some stuff, yeah? Have a kit? Yeah. First aid kit. Oh, man, in the back, we got such good answers. Oh, man. You are really making me feel good, kid. Okay. Do you think you need information? Yeah? Yes, you definitely want your driver's license and that license plate. I love it. Okay, so the top 3 buckets of things. This is going to kind of cover all the types of things you're going to want to do. You're going to want to make that plan. Once you have a plan, you're going to want to have supplies that go to the plan that are appropriate for what your plan is and what your family needs. And then you're going to want to get information so that you can take action on that plan. So you're going to want to make a plan, build a kit, and stay informed. So on this, because we've got some really good answerers, what do we think some elements of that plan are? Yes, where we're meeting, who we're going to contact, how we're going to stay in contact. You have seen my presentation. Yes. Okay, we're jumping through it because we just got basically all the answers. So you're going to know those hazards that impact you, the ones we talked about, the things that are high likelihood or high impact, and then plan for the rest of them as you get time to. Or if you know that there's something that's not super likely, but it's going to be the thing that impacts you and your family the most. It would be devastating, catastrophic failure. Plan for that one. Take that accountability for your family. Figure out what makes the most sense in the moment for you and your family. So you're going to want to do the hazards. You want that communications plan and key contacts. You need an evacuation and reunification plan. And then I've got some details for each of these. When do we start planning for disaster recovery? Now. Plan for your recovery before an event. That sounds kind of weird, but I promise you it makes sense. And then the other thing you want to do as you're thinking through all of these is what makes you special. We're all special, but some of us are more special. The things about your family that require extra stuff, extra time, extra access, whatever it may be, think that through too. Because if you show up at one of our pet-friendly, all our shelters on Oahu are pet-friendly, if you show up with a llama, I will not have llama food. You gotta bring the llama food. So you gotta think through what is important for your family. So knowing if you should evacuate, we're gonna talk about the evacuation plan first. It depends on what the hazard is. Some hazards, you're not going to have to do really anything. If it's a tsunami and you live in Mililani, you're going to stay off the road. That is your job in a tsunami, is to not be traffic. If you are in a safe place during a tsunami, your job is to not be traffic. If you are not in a safe place during a tsunami, your job is to get to a safe place. It's pretty basic there. Some things you can shelter in place. If there's a hurricane and you live in a newer construction after 1995 home that's been retrofitted, that has window protection and an indoor first floor room or closet, like a bathroom with no windows, something like that, then you likely can just stay at your house. Or you can go to someone's house and you are going to be a hell of a lot more comfortable than being with 200 of your newest best friends in a cinder block classroom with 100-mile-an-hour winds blowing around you. I promise you, it will keep you safe, but it will not keep you happy. So I want everyone to think through what resources you have in your personal network and what resources you can be in these moments, because we all have something to offer. For some of us, it's that we're the person who can make the plan. We may not have any of this stuff, but we're good planners. Some people have a ton of stuff and can't make a plan to save their lives. Use their stuff and make their plan. Help them. It's getting together. So the only other thing I want to talk about on this is if you plan to shelter in place at your house and everyone's going to come to your house, consider just going in on some emergency supplies from Costco with them and keeping them all at your house so they don't have to bring them right before the storm. Think through what you need to do. Or if you know that you're going to need to go somewhere in an emergency. Keep your supplies packed in some way where you can just pop them in the car and go, rather than having them under the Christmas boxes in the back of the crawl space under the house because we have no basement. It's not going to be very easy to get your stuff when you need it if you do it that way. If you do need to go to a shelter because you do not have a safer place to go, we do have options for people. It's a misconception. Everyone says, we don't have hurricane shelters. We have hurricane refuge areas. They are not shelters we have an iron box that will protect you from 400-mile-an-hour winds. But hurricane refuge areas are areas within primarily public school buildings that have been assessed by engineers to be best available refuge areas. And if anyone, for the picture takers, I have a printout of this for you as well. I have printouts of virtually everything that I've put on the slide deck so that folks can read them. Also, all this content is available on our website for download, and it's screen reader compatible if you know folks who have vision issues or anything like that. Usually those can also translate. We're really trying to keep things up on the up and up with that. But we have a lot of different kinds of shelter types. All of that to say that different scenarios require different facilities, require different responses. And so there's so many things, so you don't know what it might be in any moment. So when you see what you're going to, you got to check ahead of time to know what you're walking into. Communications. Does anyone other than the person who mentioned it the first time know why we need an out-of-state contact, or know that we needed one?
In case we lose communication methods in Hawaii?
Ish. Yes. So has anyone ever left like a giant concert or football game or something, and then everyone's trying to make a phone call at the same time? Does your call go through? It doesn't. If you try to call your mom in Colorado, does the call connect? It does. Out-of-state calls will almost always, because there's so many fewer people calling out of state, there'll still be some bandwidth. I don't really understand why. This is what the cell phone people tell us. And experientially, it has worked. So you need an out-of-state contact. Does it work if everyone calls a different out-of-state contact? No. You all want to call Auntie Susan, who has a notepad by her phone, and will say Molly is safe, Don is safe, Brandon is safe. And then she'll read it out to Dawn, who calls back in 2 hours and says, hey, I haven't heard from Molly. How is she? If you're all calling a different person, the information circle won't connect. So pick a person ahead of time and let them know. Also, how many people know more than 2 phone numbers by heart right now? We got a couple hands. And the cab is not one of those numbers. Just because you can sing it doesn't mean it's going to help you in an emergency. Print out your contact lists. If you don't know the number, then you won't know it in a hurricane. If you don't know it now. When you're stressed out, you don't make good decisions. You don't remember information. So if on your best day you don't have it, on your worst day you definitely don't have it. Print it out. Don't rely on digital only. Keep it in your phone, obviously, but have a backup system. Bandwidth and battery, whenever possible, text, don't call, unless you really need to. But texting will take a lot less battery, a lot less bandwidth. Also, a lot of times if you're somewhere that has a Starlink or a hotspot, you'll be able to do Wi-Fi that way without eating it up for everyone else. Out-of-state point of contact, decide who it is beforehand, have all of that. Evacuation planning. You do fire drills at school, yeah? Do you do fire drills at home? Should you do fire drills at home? Should we all do fire drills at home? Yes. When you think about evacuation planning, you want to think about it on a few levels. The fire drill level, I need to get out of my house and maybe my street. The close, immediate, really fast-paced emergency. You want to have a plan for that. Meet by the big tree. Meet at Auntie So-and-so's down the street. Basic, quick stuff. Then you want something that's a little farther. Say it's full neighborhood level. You're all going to meet at, the Safeway in Hawaii Kai or whatever it is. You pick kind of outside spaces. And then there's the far away plan, right? Of there's a tsunami and we are all going to go to, my brother lives in Mililani. So he's our tsunami guy. He had my dad and his in-laws and all their pets stay with him for the tsunami. Lucky him. I was at work. But you want to think about evacuation planning that way, where you've got the kind of concentric circles so that you're not responding to a house fire by driving to Mililani, but you're not responding to a tsunami by going upstairs. You want to match your evacuation to what's appropriate for the emergency, and then be flexible. And this is something that we talk about. People ask, why don't we have evacuation route signs for everything, this, that, the other? You got to have some flexibility, because if there's one car accident on the one route that all the signs point to, no one's going to be able to get through. So you want to build some flexibility into your planning. You want to build some flexibility into what you're doing. So you got to practice it. If everyone knows they're going to go to Safeway, you probably want to know 2 or 3 ways to get to Safeway. That one way may not work. So thinking it through that way, and practice it and talk about it. Recovery, this stuff's really basic. Treat your house like inventory for this. Know your insurance. Most regular insurance, renters or homeowners, does not cover hurricane, flood. It doesn't cover a lot of the acts of God, natural hazards. So make sure that if you're somewhere that needs it, that you have the appropriate insurance rider to cover that. And then whether you've got the insurance or not, highly recommend you do. But even if you don't, if there is a storm forecast or something's coming, walk around your house taking a video. I, Molly Pierce, at 7 p.m. walked around my house. It has a roof. It has walls. My windows are not broken. Take that video, and then after the storm, before you clean up, take the same video. It is Molly walking around my house at 7 a.m. the next day. My house has no roof. My windows are broken. And then you've time-stamped it. You've got all that information, and that's twofold. That's both for your insurance and any personal recovery, but it also goes to what Don was talking about doing damage assessment and meeting those thresholds to get federal assistance to prove how big of a disaster we've had. So it serves a lot of purposes. And then don't wait to clean up. A lot of people think that you need to wait until you've had an adjuster walk through your house, this, that, the other. The vast majority of policies do not require this, and all it will do is make it harder on you in the long run. After you've taken all that information, contact your company, let them know, I have all the documentation, here it is, and start cleaning. Because you don't want to add mold on top of damage. So there's that. If you have 5 minutes to leave your house, what do you take? Yes, important documents like your IDs. Your dog, yes, please take your dog. Bug out bag, do you actually have it? Are you gonna have it? There we go. Good news. We have some handouts for that. 14 days and go bag. Yeah, checklists with pictures. So one of the things that we talk about when we do go bags, if you can't carry your go bag, is it gonna work? Put it on wheels. If you can't pull your go bag, is it gonna work? You gotta find a way to carry it or tug it or throw it out the window. But if you can't go with it, it's not gonna be very useful for you. If you can't bug out with it, if you can't get out of Dodge, take some things out of it. We have people trying to leave with 10 gallons of water. That's 80 pounds. Unless you have some real emergent need for water, you probably don't need that much in a go bag. You want it in your 14-day kit. You want a gallon per person per day. But if your go bag is just to get you somewhere safe, you're not going to drink those 10 gallons of water in that 4-hour, 72-hour time frame. So think through what you need. And this was mentioned, and I was really glad you brought it up. The comfort item, the deck of cards, the Bible, the book, the crossword puzzle, whatever it is, include that in your go bag. This is something that I didn't take seriously until I was listening to a presentation from a woman who had been through a hurricane in Chuuk. And she and 300 of her newest best friends were in one of those metal Quonset huts for 48 hours. And she was the only person with a board game. People were signing it out like a library book because they were going crazy. And what I bring this up because we need to survive the storm, right? But we also need to survive each other. This is something, if you have kids, think of when you forgot the coloring book, the teddy bear, the pacifier, whatever it is, and multiply that by 1,000. And that is a hurricane without an iPad. Yes, that's really key. A go bag is for each member of your household. If you have a dog, your dog should have his own go bag. I mean, you can put his stuff in, but you think through important documents for you, your ID, whatever, important documents for your dog, his vet records, whatever it is, and you make sure that you have all the things checked off for all the people and furry people. And then we want to have 14 days worth of stuff on Oahu. We talked about this in terms of infrastructure, where on the mainland, they stage power trucks right outside the storm's path. They drive them in as soon as it's safe to do so, and they get working. Here, that's just not possible. It's not our reality. And so we need to prepare in a different way. We need to have more stuff. Does anyone know how much food is on Oahu at any given time?
Ridiculous, like 7 days or something like that.
7 days is optimistic.
Yeah, something concerning. I remember something very concerning.
It's approximately 5 days of food. That includes everything in the Costco warehouse. That includes everything in the grocery store. That includes the food bank. It doesn't include the military because we don't know what they have. Strategically, we don't know. But you think about that, and then if everyone's running 72 hours, 24 hours before a storm to get food, that's not more food coming on Oahu. That's just using that time frame. So as soon as the port closes, if there's not new food coming onto the island, we're just redistributing those 5 days. We're not adding. So we need to slowly add ahead of time to our kits so that we're increasing those number of days total by having things in our houses. Because Costco's not going to have more in the store just because a hurricane was forecast, because their supply chain doesn't work that way. They can't get it here soon enough. The ship that reaches us the day of the hurricane left LA before they even knew a hurricane was coming. The timing just doesn't work. So you got to have, our goal is 14 days. That said, our houses are small. Our budgets are smaller. Our paychecks are small. It's hard. I recognize that. I have twin toddler boys. They eat as much as teenage boys. What I've done is I did the math and I figured out what are the calories I need. I didn't think through, I want 14 dinners and it's this, that, the other. I bought giant jars of peanut butter. That's a lot of calories. It'll suck, but you'll survive. And so there is truth to the saying that we can't afford this and we can't store this. There is some truth to that. But we also we do have to suck it up a little bit. And we have to think about, how do we get there? Not what's perfect, not how do I get the freeze-dried bucket that'll last for 25 years that's perfect and pretty. If you can, awesome. That is gold standard level. But that's not the reality for most of us, right? The reality for a lot of us, we're regular people, is 6 jars of peanut butter and some water jugs, and that's okay. It's whatever works for you and for your family and gets you closer. And if you're at 1 day today and you're at 7 days, 6 months from now, you've improved the resilience of your whole neighborhood, right? Because now your neighbor, they don't need to feed you as much. And it's thinking about that way. If we can prepare, even if it's going to be hard, even if it's going to suck, if we do what we can, it helps everybody around us, right? And so thinking about it that way. This is my last thing, I promise. Where do you get information in emergencies? Radio, social media. Okay, on that, who do you trust on social media? And who don't you trust on social media? Be honest. You can say it's me. If you don't trust me, tell me. I'm fine with that.
I feel like you get influencers stuff, like people like,
Yeah, influencers, sensationalism. It's hard. It's hard to know what's good out there. Lahaina, Don mentioned this. I think Don mentioned it. I've seen 2 HIEMA presentations today, so I may be confusing this with the other one. But after Maui, we had Chinese state actors trying to convince people, of varying causes of the fire. Like, we have people with a vested interest in screwing with us, essentially. Pardon my language. You got to take everything you see with a grain of salt. And so you got to know where you're going to get good information and where, if you see it, you might want to not necessarily don't trust it, but confirm it, right? So I have this. There's printouts on the back. These are all the different systems we have. And Don was talking about these. We lay them out in this way so that it's kind of easy to understand if you have to do something to get it, or if it's just going to happen to you. So if you want to get social media, you want to get H&L Alert, the city and county of Honolulu's alerts, you got to sign up for that. You got to follow it. You got to click submit. You got to do something, right? Whatever it is, you decide to get that information, or the algorithm feeds it to you, but you decided to go on social media, so you kind of gave in already. Those are really great, especially for forewarning, for additional information, for the extras, right? It's really, really interesting and useful information. I think it's interesting. I'm a nerd. Maybe you don't. Then we've got firefighter, policeman knocking on your door, get out, get out, get out, like you see in the movies. It happens sometimes, and when it does, you got to take it seriously. But it's not likely to be your first notification of an emergency. The most likely for a large-scale emergency, say a really big wildfire, tsunami, that kind of thing, will be these emergency alert systems that are very heavily regulated, and you don't get to decide if you get them or not. They're the wireless emergency alert. That's the WIA. That's the squeal on your cell phone when the tsunami happened, or when there's an Amber Alert or something like that. That's the one where your phone shakes and it lights up and it just goes crazy. The problem is, as soon as you read it, it disappears. You can't get the information back. So it's a serious flaw in that system. But that's federally regulated. Also, you have to write a message in 90 characters. That includes the spaces and the periods. You really can't tell people much, right? That's basically get out, run. You can't even say from this street to that street. There's not enough space in those messages. So what we do is we use these messages, and then we backstop them with all of this other information to try and give people additional context. So when we send something like this, we try to say, turn on your TV, or something like that that's actionable to get people to go and get more information. Then we have the emergency alert system. That's the one that squeals on the radio. The National Weather Service has issued. That one. So we have those. You may have noticed that we used to get a ton of them. There was a while where we got the flood thing like every other day. Because on the continent, they don't have flood warnings the way we do. And so they had to change it because so many people were getting alert fatigue that they were getting notified constantly of floods that really weren't that big a deal in Hawaii that like in Idaho would have been catastrophic. And so they had to change it, which is great because now if you get it, it's real. It's an actual problem. And then the siren system. Almost never will you hear a siren and have nothing else that goes with it because the siren does not mean anything on its own. All it means is get more information. It doesn't mean run. It doesn't mean tsunami. It doesn't mean hurricane. It doesn't mean terrorist attack. It just means get information. And so we use it in conjunction with all of these other systems so that it alerts people, especially if you're outside, you're going for a run or something, and you're not looking at your phone. This tells you, go find something to look at. Selfishly, my favorite, H&L Alert. If you get one, about half the time it will be a love letter from me to you. I send a lot of them, and they're really great because they include links to evacuation maps, shelter lists, all this information that you wouldn't really be able to get from those HIEMA messages and those other things because they're super short and they don't let us include links half the time. So this is where you get all that extra stuff. The last thing, if we don't trust the influencers, who should we trust? They're not going to trust us. No. What I want you to do is if you've got information that you know is accurate, you know is credible, share it with people. You need to become the trusted source. Because your neighbors, they're going to listen to you. Your family, they're going to listen to you, unless you've given them reason not to. However, most of us can overcome this challenge, and we can be the person in our family that people listen to. And that's really critical, because if they're not going to listen to me, and they're not going to listen to the mayor, but you know they got to do something, if you can make that just help move things for them, that's going to make a huge difference. I'll skip this. If anyone wants to become a volunteer or get training, talk to me. We'll leave it at that because I have talked a lot and I know you're getting tired. Thank you guys so much.
Molly, thank you so much for that presentation. I'd like to also thank HIEMA, Don, Kiele, Jordan, your team. Thank you so much. If anybody has any other questions, feel free to stick around after. If you come up with any questions you have later on, feel free to email my office. We can help get the answer and get the field the question to them and get the answer to you. But thank you everybody for joining us. Our next Let's Talk Story session is going to be next month. Visit the website, repgideon.com. I believe it's December 18th. And it's actually going to tie right into this. It's on food sustainability. I did not know that we had 5 days worth of food. So it is a little scary. It's concerning. Get that peanut butter. Okay. But without further ado, we have a question.
If you want to learn how to help your community, is it free, like for a course?
Yes. So we have, there's a training course called CERT. It's Community Emergency Response Team Training. It's a 3-day training course that happens 3 Saturdays in a row. It's 2 classroom days and then 1 practical day. And the practical day is really fun. You do it at Diamond Head in one of the old artillery batteries, and you learn how to do like first aid and kind of basic fire suppression and all these really cool things. But what it really does is it teaches how to evaluate hazards and all of that, teaches you those basics, and then connects you with other people in your community that would actually do it as an activity. So we have free training. There's also a lot of really great free training from the American Red Cross and a lot of other agencies. And we have a whole page on our website that gives a lot of links to training. But if you're really interested, I would really recommend CERT training because it's really comprehensive, and the Battery Harlow Day is really fun. I like to play a victim. It's honolulu.gov/DEM. I also left my card on the back if anyone wants to grab it. Feel free to call, email. Please call during work hours.
Awesome. Again, DEM, HIEMA, thank you so much. Thank you all for being here this evening. And stay tuned for the next Let's Talk Story. Aloha.